Hey villagers, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Today, as promised, I'm coming to you with my review of the Canon EOS M50 wireless camera. I'm going to give you my first impressions as well as how I've been using this camera so that if you're interested in getting it, you know exactly what to do from day one. So if you're interested, you should definitely take a look at this video because I'm going to be doing a deep dive into what I've been doing with it. So let's get started. Hey guys, as promised, as I mentioned before, I was going to do a full review after using the camera about my impressions of it, and so I just want to jump right in and let you know my good, my bad, and some things I didn't know and a learning curve that I've encountered. So obviously I'm recording on another device because in order to show you the camera, I can record with the camera. I will insert some footage from this camera so that you can actually see how it records. But overall, a first impression, I definitely love the camera. One of the things that I absolutely love about it is that it's easy. It's really super quick to learn like the different controls, and there's no real learning curve when it comes to that. What I will say is that if you have a Mac or you use Apple products, you have to be a little bit more mindful that it might take a little longer to sync, or if the syncing is not as seamless as I think it would be on a PC. So that's just one of the things to keep in mind if you do have a Mac like myself. I found that I had to keep, canceling the setup and then redoing it in order to get my images to sync to my phone as well as my computer. So definitely keep that in mind if that is something that you have. Another thing is that with the 32 gigabyte, which I currently have, it holds about 3 5-minute videos. That's at 30 frames per second. They do have different settings on here, but that's what I've been currently using for all of my videos. And when you have about 3 5-minute videos at 30 frames per second, it holds about 590 photos. So as a beginner, that's a lot. But what I've had to do is every time I take photos, I've had to delete the ones that I don't use. So definitely getting a larger card will obviously alleviate that, as well as the battery. The battery only does about like a day, and then I have to charge it. I will say it charges pretty fast, but I'm shooting content all the time, so I know that every day, and what I'm gonna have to do now is put the battery on the charger so I can get a full day's worth of using the camera. They do have larger battery packs available, so it's definitely something that I'm going to invest in. I would definitely recommend, if you're using this like I am for content creation, you should get a larger SD card as well as getting a larger battery so that it doesn't die every day and so that you can hold a lot more images. You don't have to delete after every photo shoot. As far as filming is concerned, so I filmed about 4 videos using the Canon. I would say that the first 3, I didn't know what I was doing because obviously it was new. So I was filming everything in auto mode, and I realized that I had to change it to manual, and it became a lot more crisp and it became a lot cleaner. Obviously, if I'm vlogging, I would then change it to auto mode, but if I'm creating content just like this, I think having it manual is going to work a lot better for your needs. That's just me. I would say the other thing with the video is when you're flipping it to vertical. So I also have an IGTV series. I'll put the link to that below. So the first couple of times filming it was trial and error. The image quality wasn't really good, and that's when I was filming everything on auto mode. When I switched it to manual, it made the difference. So that would be something that you should definitely consider if you are using it for content creation versus just vlogging. If you're vlogging, then keeping everything on auto is going to work. But if you really need crisp and sharpened content, then putting everything over into manual is going to work. I also use external microphones with everything. So going in there, making sure you're changing the settings will allow you to do that. If you don't change the settings, the audio will be a little bit off, and through editing you can change it, but it's not going to be as good as if you just go in and edit it yourself through the camera. that's going to make it a lot better going forward. I would say the viewfinder in the back has been very, very, very beneficial, especially when I'm taking images. I'm nearsighted, so having the viewfinder lets me at least know that I'm in frame, but you have to still be mindful that you need to look in the lens. That's the only thing, like when you're vlogging, you want to look in the viewfinder because, you know, it's able to face you, but you still have to look directly into the lens so that it doesn't look like you're looking up. That's another thing that I have found when recording video. The last thing is it's going to be trial and error. So if you're able to get everything you need to get done on auto, great. For me, I have to kind of switch between auto and manual, but make sure you are testing, right? The first week, I took hundreds and hundreds of images because I wanted to make sure that, you know, when I was creating content or when I was doing this, when I was working with brands and doing stuff like that, I knew which mode I needed to be on to get the looks that I needed to get for content. So just make sure that you are constantly testing with the video because there is a slight learning curve, like I said before, and you want to make sure that you know how to use it. Now we're going to go over to the actual taking pictures portion. What I really like about this camera is that you can actually view images from inside the viewfinder or here on the display here. So usually I just use the big display. I don't even use the viewfinder unless it's something really intricate, and then I will use it. But other than that, everything I need to take, you can just take for the viewfinder. The lens, at least for my purposes, does really well. Obviously, this Canon allows you to have several different type of lenses attached to it. So I would recommend that if you get this Canon with the lens, if you want to go like really super duper fly, I think they said the 22mm would be the next best thing, and I think there's one from Sigma that works really well with this, but for right now, for my purposes, this lens does fine. I have the 15 to 45mm lens, and it's been working great for all of my content, but if you want something a little bit more like up there, you can definitely switch out the lens and do that. I will also say that when recording and taking images, you can use a remote. I find that the shutter has to be on with the remote, and you have to kind of play around with the remote. The ones that you can get that you have from Amazon, they work okay, but I find that doing the self-timer like I was doing on my cell phone allows me to get the images a lot better. One, because you know, I haven't figured out how to do it without the clicker. But if that's something that you're really good at, then more power to you. But for me, I haven't really figured out how to do it with, you know, with the clicker thing. So I just use the self-timer, and that's been really, really helpful. I still get the shot and everything that I need. So that's been what we've been doing with that. I've been doing a really good job at keeping it clean. Whenever I'm finished with the lens, I make sure to put this cap back on top. Is super important. You definitely do not want to scratch this lens because then you're pretty much, you've messed up. The lens is very delicate, so just make sure when you're not shooting, you definitely put this back on. If you have children and a dog like I do, make sure you put it back on and make sure you're putting this up in a way so that they're not able to get a hold of it. I will also say with camera mode, again, you have to play around with it. I've had to adjust when I'm taking pictures throughout the day because lighting is so important. When you're filming on your phone, you can kind of manipulate it, but with the camera, like you could really see the difference between the images that you're taking on your camera on your cell phone and the images that you're taking on here. The things that you might have been able to get away with on your cell phone, you're definitely not going to be able to do that with this. So I would say the first thing is to always do a bunch of test shots with all the different modes. Usually If I'm just taking like regular photos of like Noah and Cooper, I use auto. But if I definitely need something like real strategic, I will definitely make sure I pick like portrait mode or one of the specific scenes that's inside of the camera, because you definitely want to make sure that the focus is where you need to be. That's another thing with the focus that I've been really trying to get a good handle on. It does have an autofocus and a tracking, and in some cases it works really good. In some cases you need to manually focus. So that's one thing I would definitely want to put out there if you're using the camera. Autofocus, even though it's great, it might not be what you need for that image at the time. So just make sure you're playing around with it in all the different settings. There's about like 6 on here, plus the 2 camcorder modes. Like I said, so you just want to make sure that you're playing around with it, playing around with lighting, playing around with sound. The external mic that I've been using, I've just recently figured out how to use it better. So I'll probably have to do like another mini update regarding that. But the mic that came with it was the Rode mic. So far, it's been working fine, but I didn't have it set up correctly. I had to turn the volume down. It took me a while to figure out how to turn the volume down. But once I figured out how to do that, I'm pretty sure that the audio will be a lot better. If you've seen some videos, I will insert a couple in here where you hear this clicking sound. Introduce food to your infant recently and notice that they are disinterested. It might be because they are tongue-tied. I'm going to show you 3 ways to determine if your infant is in fact tongue-tied. Let's jump right in. And that's because I didn't know how to turn down the audio until recently, but it's in the settings. I just look past it. So that's another thing too. When you get the camera, just make sure that you play around with the different settings, because some things are going to be easier to find than others. Just play around with it. When you do get ready to shoot like your content and things like that, just be very, very mindful to always do a couple of test shots and then continue to go into taking your footage. I have done that several times where I'm like in it and then I'm like, oh snap, like this is completely blurry. So always do a few test shots, whether you're recording or you're using the camera, and that will let you know if you have to take it off of autofocus and do a manual focus. I know, like I said before, they have the tracking, but you might have to take the tracking off. So just make sure that you really play around with the different settings. That's what I have had to do the past couple of weeks. It's really just been trial and error, but I love it. I think overall it has allowed me to produce content a lot faster. It definitely has elevated what I'm able to produce, and so I'm really, really overall excited about that. In the future, obviously I will upgrade to the different lenses, but for now the lens that came with the set that I bought is serving my purpose really good. Obviously, the last couple of things to note about the camera is that, obviously, as I mentioned in my unboxing, this part is detachable, but I haven't taken it off since I bought it, because again, there's a lens under here. So you really want to kind of keep everything together to reduce the amount of scratches that it's on here. The flash, if you want to do flash, is right here. I rarely use the flash. I find that it whitewashes everything out, and I don't like how the flash kind of works with what I'm doing. So I'll just use like a ring light or natural light to get the images that I need to get done. I haven't figured out what this MFN is. I think is manual function, but I don't even really press that. I usually just stick within the controls and do what I need to do. It's really lightweight. It's really easy to control and handle. I haven't put the little string on here yet because the goal is to get a little bag. And plus, because Noah is crawling and I have a dog, you want to keep things that are like easy for them to grab out of their reach. So by not putting the little strap that comes on in it, it allows me to know like, okay, at least he can't grab it and Cooper can't like accidentally, you know, pull it because he thinks it's like a string. So that's why I haven't done it. It does come with it. You should definitely use it if you know you ain't got no kids. But if you got kids like I do, depending on their age, you may or may not want to put it on. Like I said, now I do know that their drivers are online, and I know that I recently updated my Mac. So I think that's why for a while it wasn't really compatible, and then I had to re-download drivers. So that's something just to keep in mind too, whether you have a PC or a Mac, to make sure you have the most recent drivers if you want to sync this to your computer and your phone. It's pretty easy and seamless on both devices, so you definitely don't have to worry about that. And the last thing that I would just mention is that I keep it pretty clean. If you do need to clean the lens, make sure you're using one of those soft cloths. I wouldn't use tissue. I wouldn't put any water on it. You definitely want to have like a lens cleaner and a special lens cloth to clean the lens of the camera. I haven't had to do it because, you know, as I stated, I keep the lens on, but that is an option. I would use that also for the viewfinder as well as the inside of here. If you're going to clean the lens, just make sure you're cleaning with that same type of cloth fabric on the viewfinder as well as the little piece here. And it's pretty compatible with any stand, like selfie stand. So I've been using that. The battery and everything goes down here. And that's pretty much it. Overall, I would definitely recommend it if you're a new person getting into photography. I'm pretty novice at this, so it's not like I know like all the different ins and outs of cameragery, but I do know that this is definitely something that I needed for what I'm trying to do. And as I get, you know, more familiar with like photography and things like that, then I'll be able to upgrade at that time. But if you're a beginner, you just want something really easy because you ain't got time to be like, oh, in this carry the 3, then this camera is definitely something that you should look into. And again, you can get just the body, but I got it also with the lens, the 15 to 45 millimeter lens. They have another type of lens, which is like 22 to something else millimeter lens. You can get that, that's more expensive. But just to start off, I would just get the 15 to 45 milliliter. Once you kind of master this and all the settings on this, then you can upgrade to something more expensive. All right. So that's it for this review. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please thumbs up, share, like, comment, and subscribe. Join the village. I would love to have you. If you have this camera, what are your thoughts on it? Did you find that the learning curve was a little bit tricky, or was it easy breezy for you? Let's discuss below. If you're going to get the camera, let me know so that we can be Canon camera friends. And I will see you on the next video. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And thanks for tuning in. Bye.